Hello and welcome to the Blues Kind Show, first episode of 2026. Thank you everyone for joining me. I wanted to just start off by saying I hope everyone had a fun and restful break and that everyone's come back in one piece. And if you're, an essential worker that's not been able to get a break over the period, or even, if you just work a job where they weren't willing to give you the time off, I hope you get a bit of respite soon once the busy period's over. Today we will be looking at breakdown contenders, but before I get into that, just a couple of small housekeeping things that I'll try to rush through. So I may not be back in full production in terms of content until the season kicks off properly. I've got some ideas for some things that I'd like to do, but obviously until there's genuine news coming out, not just stuff about, blah blah's trading the house down, because we all know players that were trading the house down every single offseason and they never went anywhere. So we might just leave some of those sorts of reports alone. That said, I will inevitably fall into the hype and probably will want to make my video about bloke who came 7th in the time trials going to get a starting spot in round 1. We'll find out though. I also just want to comment that on my last video, only 30% of those who watched, actually not even 30%, were subscribed. So if you could subscribe, that would be awesome. And finally, I'm considering doing a weekly recap show. I've made it really clear that I don't want my channel to become a game breakdown channel, because I think for a few reasons. One, footy is one of the sports where what the teams are trying to achieve in terms of tactics and strategy is one of the most opaque in terms of all sports. Like, with cricket, you can watch a field, you watch how they bowl, and you can say, they're trying to do, a square leg trap, or, they're trying to get someone nicking off to slips, whatever it happens to be. But in football, we don't necessarily know what they're going out there to try to do. That's why I don't want to do a week by week technical breakdown of each game. But a recap show is something that I thought I might be able to add a little bit more value to. So my midweek show would be a brief chat about the game, plus relevant news and also responses to any sort of media comment that I see. A bit of, Brad Johnson, great point, or Ben Dixon, maybe just stick to doing the bounce, no more analysis for you. That sort of a thing. So if that's the sort of content you would like to see, please leave a comment below, subscribe on up, and we'll go from there. But I think we should get onto the fun stuff, personally. I will be looking today at Breakout Contenders for 2026. I will be looking at 10 players who are in a position to have breakout success. My criteria for the review is really simple. I've just looked at players that have played between 10 and 70 games. I've done this because no player on the 10 to 70 list is obviously going into their first season, nor their second season. So I think it's kind of fair. Third year onwards, you're able to start getting a bit of a better idea of where that particular player is at. And obviously more than 70. The sort of benchmark I've always heard is 50 to 70 games is by the time you should be sort of hitting your straps. So I thought after 70 games, if you haven't broken out or become a consistent player, maybe not necessarily that worth looking at. So just before we launch into it as well, I just wanted to quickly lay out the players that I will cover will be listed in order of games played descending. So first is Ollie Hollands. He has played the most games on this list. In addition to that, the criteria for who needs a breakout and what is considered a breakout will differ for every player. So I'll do my best to sort of explain it as I go. So without further ado, let's get into it. Like I mentioned, the first player I will be looking at today is Ollie Hollands. And as much as I like talking about Ollie Hollands, he's going to get a pretty brief look in today. Having played 65 games, he barely qualified for this list. He has completed 3 seasons. I have put a flat nope, does not need to break out. And the reason for that is he's already in our best 23 now players. In addition to that, he came 7th in our BNF last year. So for a third-year player, I think that's really strong stuff. Now, whether I think he will is not relevant necessarily because I don't think he has a need to break out any further, but I do think he'll improve. One thing I'm considering doing is my proposed top 10 for our BNF. Obviously, that always goes awry with injuries and whatnot, but he is the sort of guy who I think could definitely come top 5 in our BNF. So obviously that would be an improvement. He will have fully cemented himself as, a best 10 player at the club by that time. However, he obviously does not need to break out. He could continue at this rate and he'll probably chalk up 200 games. He's already a very good player. So all power to you, Ollie Hollands. By the way, if you want to see something that shows why professional athletes are professionals and, us watchers are not, Carlton put out an article that featured embedded Instagram stories, including Ollie Hollands from his holiday. Seeing that guy hit a golf ball is ridiculous. It sounds like the crack of a whip when he comes through, and all 30 kilos of him sent that ball about 300 metres. So, yeah, they're a little bit different to the rest of us. Next is Jesse Motlop. 63 games played, 4 completed seasons after being drafted in 2021. In terms of needing a breakout, I've put him as an almost, and the reason for that is the only reason he's not a yes is because he has 2 more years left on his contract. You might recall he signed a 2-year extension at the end of last season. I also don't think that he will break out. Now, by breakout for Jesse, what I mean is if he's injury-free, he's automatically selected and he's kicking a goal a game. That's my criteria for Jesse. When fit, he plays, kicks a goal a game. Doesn't, as in on average, not literally has to on every single game, although that'd be great. The reason why I don't think Jesse will break out, and it's something that I've said a few times in some of my more recent videos, is I think the arrival of Ben Ainsworth and Will Haywood may just push Jesse Motlop out of the team altogether. Obviously, I'm basing this firstly on my own opinion, but also on my own best 23. If you have Jesse Motlop in your 23 for opening round against Sydney, I could totally understand why you might think that he definitely will break out. I think he's going to have a hard time maintaining a permanent spot. I really hope I'm wrong because I like Jesse and he is so overly hated that I would love for him to come out this year and kick 30 goals and for everyone who's ever said a ridiculously out-of-pocket thing to or about him. So I'd love it if he comes on. I just don't think that he will. However, because it's not his final year of his contract, his need to have a massive breakout isn't quite there. So all the power to him. I hope I'm wrong on this one, frankly. It would be excellent if Jesse Motlop came on because I do think that he is a little bit of a point of difference for us as a forward. But at this time, this is sort of where I have arrived. The next name on the list, Brodie Kemp, I was surprised to see him here. He's only played 49 games in 6 seasons. Now, he came to us, I think it was with an ACL or an Achilles, one of the two. I want to say ACL. He obviously then did his significant leg injury early in the season last year, so he missed a lot of games there as well. He's also spent a lot of his time in his career shifting between various positions, bedded down as a backman for a while, but he played forward for us all of last year when he did appear, and has played forward at different times throughout his career. He's now completed 6 seasons, and if you consider that 2 of them essentially were wiped out in full because of injury, I think that there can be a little bit more leniency shown to someone like Brodie Kemp. However, I do think that he needs to break out. One is mainly because of his age. He recently got an extension, but the other factor, though, that I think is quite relevant is that he has had recent interest from other teams. He didn't at the end of last year. That's likely because of the injury. Year before, Saints, they come and knocking for everyone, but they came and knocking for Brodie. I think as well, he's about 194 centimetre, terrific athlete. I think that other clubs would be interested in him if he doesn't fully come on at Carlton. So in terms of his future with us, I think that he needs to break out now. However, and I may do individual, season predictions as to how I think certain players will go. I'm very confident that Brodie's going to break out. There's a few reasons for that. One is obviously Charlie's now gone. The idea from the media that I've heard from the club is that the intention was always to have Brodie, Harry, and Charlie all play together. Well, Charlie has now gone, and that means that Brodie, slides up one in the old pecking order in terms of how important we view this guy to be. In addition to that, he was on track to kick, I think, 45 goals last season. Obviously, his extrapolated rate was a little bit higher because of the 5 against the Bulldogs. But I really liked what I saw out of him as a forward. He reminds me a lot of Jack Darling, in the sense that he can sometimes do some things that make you scratch your head. However, he's slightly undersized, but in terms of his athleticism, it's more than enough to make up for it. One thing that I really liked when they interviewed him at the end of last year was he said that I want to gain a bit more weight. And from what I could tell is so he's stronger in the contest, better contested marking. That real Charlie Curnow undersized key forward type position, it sounds like that is what Brodie is going to be working towards achieving. I think he can do it. This is not an official prediction. I wouldn't be stunned if I saw him kick 40 goals this year. I really think that he has the capability to be a 2-goal-a-game sort of player because he can generate them in a number of different ways. Like, he's good in the air. His kicking sometimes lets him down, but he's good in the air. He's really good at ground level, especially for his size. Not just in terms of follow-up and being able to handle the ball, kick snaps on the run, things like that. Like, I think it was his last game against the Bulldogs, gets it, hard switch to to his left-hand side, hard left-hand turn, snaps it through. And I don't know, to me it looks like there's a bit of plus, goal sense around Brodie Kemp that maybe that bit of freedom of getting to play as a forward could really benefit him. I think now, given how set his spot is in the team, given he will play his 50th game in round 1, or opening round, he is the sort of guy that I think could and will break out. And given how injured he's been for us, I think that would be wonderful to see. It would justify, in part, moving Charlie on, and it would show our ability to move forward. One last thing I want to touch on with Brodie is I think he complements the way I assume our forward line is going to play, where it is, more democratic, it is more share it around. So I think all players will be expected to be able to lead, be able to, have a contest, be able to crumb, be able to tackle. And obviously it's not going to be the same level of responsibility for all players. Like a guy like Brodie, more expectation of marking the ball than maybe crumbing and tackling at ground level. But he's an excellent tackler. I still can't believe that some people's response after Harry Mackay had 10 tackles against Freo was, oh, you shouldn't judge a key forward by their ability to tackle. What would you rather them do? Just sit around watching while the game goes on and they do nothing? No. Brodie Kemp gets dirty at ground level, and if he's not marking the ball and kicking goals, I'm very happy to see it. So I think guys like him, Will Haywood, obviously Harry will work really well together. They all tackle really well. They can all mark really well. They're somewhat interchangeable despite their different dimensions. I've gassed on way too much about Brodie Kemp, but I really want to impress how good I think he could be in a short amount of time. Again, 40 goals is not an official projection just yet, but, soft prediction. Let's go with that. Next up is Francis Evans, 44 games across 3 clubs. Drafted the same year as Brodie Kemp, so he's completed his 6th season now. I think he needs to break out. The main reason for that is 6 years in the system and he only got a 1-year extension, which frankly I thought was a little bit stiff. I think he could have got a 2nd year. But, it is what it is. He accepted it. No dramas there. And I think Frankie will break out. This is sort of the other side of the Jesse Motlop coin. When I was doing my best 23, I had one small forward spot left. I gave it to Frankie. I think that he is going to be in the team in round one. I think he's a little bit different to a forward pocket type. I think he is more of that half forward, better delivering it inside 50, better kicking a goal when he's chest out to it as opposed to the old Eddie Betts kicking him over the shoulder or in deep in the pocket or whatever it happens to be. That seems to be more his role, and that sort of precision kicking is something that we didn't have for a lot of last year. And when he turned it on late in the year, first half against Melbourne, game against Fremantle, game against Port, and I recently rewatched the last quarter of the Suns game. Oh, he's sizzling. Gary Lyons calling him Darren Jarman. It's a great time. I'd highly recommend going back and watching it if you haven't. Obviously, we end up with a loss, but very exciting footy. So, yeah, I think that Frankie, in terms of his tackling is excellent, his kicking is excellent. I think those two things will pretty much just keep him in the team for most of the season. So I do expect that he, in fact, will break out. And for him, that just means, again, being a regular player who's always selected when he is fit and ready to go. And I think that that's roughly the role he's going to fall into next year, which is excellent for the young man. Next up is Lachie Cowan. I've got on the graphic 44 games. I believe it's actually only 38 games, so please pardon that oversight. He's completed 3 seasons, obviously drafted the same year as Ollie Hollands. I don't think that he needs to break out. I want to be clear. Everyone on this list, apart from Ollie Hollands, I wouldn't say that they have necessarily broken out yet. So I don't think that Lachie Cowan needs to break out because, 3 seasons in, he's been pretty good. He's had extensions already, so the club's clearly pretty chuffed with him. When he's without injury, he generally plays. So I don't think that there's a strong need. Like, if he doesn't have a massive breakout 2026, it's not like we're going to trade him at the end of the year. He'll be around in 2027. However, I do think that he will break out. And for me, what I mean by that is I feel like Lachie Cowan, when he's played in the last few years, his role has essentially been 7th defender. Plays a little bit above his height when he needs to, mainly plays on smalls, but he mainly just gets the leftover matchup, normally the worst forward for the other team. It started to change a little bit in 2025 down the stretch when he was fit and available again. I'd like to see him elevate in one of 2 directions, or both if he ends up being that good. Either he becomes a stopper for the number 1 forward on the number 1 small forward on the opposition, or he becomes a guy which we trust more with ball in hand. You may remember from I think it was my 3 bright spots video at the end of last year, I was really impressed with his run and carry, especially in games like the Collingwood game, the second Collingwood game last year, where he showed he can actually outrun people, which I was kind of surprised by, frankly. And his kicking skills, when he bites them off, very, very good. So that's where I would like to see Lachie graduate, because I'm pretty confident that barring injury, he'll play every single game this year. So I'd like him either get more responsibility defensively or be given more opportunity offensively. I don't really mind which. I think that he's really capable of both. It's kind of nice to have guys like him who are very well balanced, can do a lot of things. So I think that he'll break out one way or the other. And it's looking like that 2022 draft for us was very, very solid, all things being considered. After Lachie is Jordan Boyd, 38 games as well, after completing 5 seasons. Keeping in mind the first of those was half a season because he came in via the mid-season draft. Jordan needs to have a breakout year because he's 5 seasons in, but he came in as a 22 or 3-year-old. He's 27 now. So if he doesn't solidify his spot in the team fully, and I think more than that, has to become an offensive weapon from the back line, because I doubt that he would be able to maintain a consistent spot in the team due to his defensive efforts. Not that they're terrible, but it's not his main thing. If he can't keep a consistent spot in the team, unfortunately, this would probably be his last year at the club. Jordan, I really hope you're not watching, but if you are, I actually really like you, and I think you have the capacity to break out. I just don't know that you will. And the main reason why I don't think he will is I think he's going to be really far down in the pecking order. Like I've mentioned, guys like Ollie Hollands and Lachie Cowan, who played the same position as him. Nick Newman's obviously going to come back. Adam Sard's going around again. I think a guy like Billy Wilson, who is a little bit further down the pecking order, if you had to choose between Jordan Boyd and Billy Wilson for a given game, you might choose Billy just because of his age. And that's where it does sort of start counting against you at this point in your career, for a guy like Jordan, where, you know, all things being equal, he probably is a better player, but because of his age, he probably has less upside. So if they don't think that he's ready to go right now, I don't think that there's an opportunity for him to break out. I remember back in 2024 where he was actually one of our brightest spots, especially down that awful stretch of the end of the season, because he is a precision kicker. I think that he has AFL traits. Like I said with Jesse, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Jordan's excellent next year. I hope all these guys are excellent next year. I just think that when the rubber needs to meet the road and there's only so many spots to go around, Jordan might find it hard to get into the team. And if you aren't in the team, you're not breaking out. So, you know, a little bit of a downer there, but Jordan, if you are watching, I hope you prove me wrong. I think you're excellent, mate, and you seem like a ripper bloke. Next is Campbell Chesser. Campbell was drafted in 2021, so he's completed 4 seasons. For some reason, that looked wrong to me. And has played 36 games, which again kind of surprised me. He doesn't have a need to break out, very similar to Lachie Cowan. He's really, really young, and he's contracted beyond next year. So there's no desperate need to break out. But I got no idea, frankly, if he's going to. This is a guy who I've repeatedly said I don't know a heap about. It's really hard to track him from his time at the Eagles because they were awful. So if you ever go back and watch footage of Campbell, he doesn't look good, but I kind of don't think that any young players tend to look good in a team like that. Maybe if you get to play loose half back and rack up 70 touches because, you know, your team's conceding 120 inside 50s, then you could look good. When you're a midfield winger who's been shoved into a forward pocket, though, you tend to look awful. So having seen some of the training footage, I think he looks really, really good. His running power is amazing, and apparently he is also one of the better distance runners at the club. You know, that was the big attraction around him. Awesome runner, pretty good kick. So we'll sort of see where he falls. I don't know if he'll break out, and I'm not going to do the thing where I pretend to know something that I don't. I think there is an opportunity, though, for a guy like him who can play, maybe high half forward wing. We need to solidify our wing rotation. So I think there could be a spot for him. And if he can grab it, he could break out this year, but he doesn't need to. He's young enough and he's still contracted. So we'll sort of see where it shakes out for Campbell. I don't shut up about Cooper Lord, and I'm making no apologies for it. The amount of comments I got on my last view that were saying Cooper Lord should be dropped from my 23, wash your mouth out with soap. He is going nowhere. I hate to tell you. Does it show my bias? Yes. Yes, I am biased in favour of Cooper Lord. When I was writing my notes for actually a different video that'll be coming out about Nick Austin's history as a list manager, I came to Cooper Lord, saw that we drafted him in 2023. I've written number of completed seasons too, because it's technically correct. He got drafted during 2024, the mid-season draft then. So really, it's only a year and a half. He's already racked up 23 games. To give you the tip, Ashton Moir was drafted 6 months earlier. He's later on this list, and he's played less than half. That says so much to me about Cooper, especially because Cooper is a midfielder in a team that has enough midfielders. So he's still been able to, wiggle his way into the team. Obviously doesn't need to break out. Again, has a contract. He's really young. He's a year older than Jagger Smith. So I think he turns maybe 20 this year. 21. doesn't need a breakout. I am really convinced he's going to. For him, I think breaking out, again, play every game you're fit and able to, and be a constant part of the midfield rotation. I don't think he will become, a part of our A team in terms of the midfield setup. So whoever our ruck's going to be, and it'll probably end up being something like Cripps, Walsh, and I don't know, Chesser or Hewitt after that. I don't think that he will ascend to that level, but I do think that he will be one of the sort of 5 to 7 midfielders that plays every week. I think he'll average over 20 touches a game. I really like the look of his kicking inside 50. So I don't know if it's goals necessarily, but goal assists I could see being something that he's really able to drive towards. And obviously he's got the tagging role as well. So I don't know exactly how high to set the benchmark for a guy like this. But again, every game played where he's fit and able to, 20 plus a game, I think is a really good benchmark for him to sort of work towards. And I think he'll achieve it, frankly. In terms of being hardworking, he's 6'3" odd, which now I'm trying to get away from using feet and inches. He's about 190 centimeters, 188 to 190, but massive tank. So in terms of a tagger, he's really big, which makes him sort of hard to deal with. But also he could add other strings to his bow. His foot skills are nice. His distance running is really good. Not the quickest, off a step, but otherwise really solid. Obviously, given I don't shut up about this guy, I think he's going to break out this year. Matt Carroll is next and second last. 17 games in 2 seasons, all of them coming last year. Didn't get a game in his first season. Fair enough. He was taken really late down in the draft. I don't think that he needs to break out. I think 1 year after this year is when he will. And for him, again, it's just becoming a best 23 player. I don't know if he'll get there this year. Obviously, he played 17 games last year. He got dropped once, but otherwise was a regular part of the team. I think he could achieve that this year of, being best 23 for the whole year. I don't know that he will, but this is a guy who I've got massive raps on for the future. I'm going to leave it pretty short, but I don't think he will definitely be in the best team every single week in 2026. The final person I want to touch on is Ashton Moir. Quickly becoming, I should say, a bit of a social media star for the club and developing his own cult following, which is very, very, very fun. But I don't think he's at the stage where he's going to break out. Now, he doesn't need to. He's got time to develop. Ashton's the sort of guy, I'm not saying necessarily as a player, especially with the upside of the player I'm about to name. He reminds me a little bit of Swanee, Dane Swan at the start of his career, in the sense you knew how much talent he had, but he needs so much work to get there. Kind of like Swanee, I actually think where Ashton will end up being the best is when he can roll through the midfield on a regular basis. I remember watching games last year, and his ability to sort of get a clearance via finesse instead of brutality for us is a big change of difference. Because ordinarily we have guys like Cripps just mowing through people. Having a guy who can get the ball, quick sidestep, pop the hands out without being touched, much cleaner than most of our guys are in the midfield. So I think that's sort of the end point for him. But we know that his tank hasn't been there just yet. He's also the sort of guy that I think might suffer in the same way that Jesse I think may suffer by the introduction of guys like Ben Ainsworth, Will Hayward, who I think may keep him out of being guaranteed to be in the best team every game next year. Additionally, if you've watched him, he can be a bit inconsistent game to game as well as within a game. So I don't think he will be at the level of maturity to be able to impact games on a regular enough basis to be a guaranteed selection every week. Again, like I've said for everyone where I've said I don't think they'll yet break out, I hope I'm wrong. I hope he kicks 50 next year. So Ashton, if you're watching, I really rate you, but I think 2027 is more likely to be his year, not 2026. With all of that said, I'm going to leave it there. If you like what I'm doing, please give me a like or subscribe. If you want to engage, pushback, agree, Give me more ideas. Please leave a comment. Please comment if you want to see a weekly recap show. Thank you very much. If you want to get in contact, leave a comment or email me at blueskindShow@gmail.com. Thank you everyone for watching. And for the first time this year, go Blues!